This is iFanboy Pick of the Week 929, brought to you by iFanboy listeners just like you. Hello, my name is Connor Kilpatrick. This is my co-host, Josh Flanagan.
Come on, let's go. Hey, everyone, let's go.
And joining us in the third chair this week is Dr. Ryan Haupt. Welcome back.
Hola, amigos. Dale, rápido.
Sí.
Vamos.
We are iFanboy, and this is Pick of the Week episode 992. That's right? 929. No, I said it wrong. I said 992. It's 929. I'm coming off a cold, and so I'm still a little addled. I added 70 shows to that number. Every week, one of us picks the book they like the best. The book. Wow. The Dayquil is wearing off. The book they like the best from their stack of comics, and they called it the Pick of the Week. We'll talk about that book, the other books from the week, the Patron Pick, some listener mail, and we have a fun time, and there's a fun time in store for Ryan, and we'll get to that in a minute. But here's your spoiler warning, exercise of caution. This was a monster week of comics, and Ryan had the dubious distinction of choosing the Pick of the Week.
I did indeed, and my pick ended up being the Amazing Spider-Man number 944, or number 50 in the new numbering. And
well, hold on. I would like to say, sometimes people complain about our insistence of using the legacy numbering, but every editor's note in this particular issue used the legacy numbering. Every single one.
It would be impossible otherwise, because then they'd have to put the volume and...
Right, but so if they use it, we're going to keep using it. So that's just what I'm saying.
Listen, I'm the Minority Report on that particular stance. I would, if it was up to me, I would say the Amazing Spider-Man number 50 legacy number.
That is Mike. Josh, does the cover look like McFarlane to you? Like a McFarlane?
I didn't look at it.
The pose that Spidey's in looks very McFarlane.
The pose, but also McFarlane used a lot of those circular framing, like a sort of way of posing the characters a lot on his Spider-Man runs. It just really looks like McFarlane homage. It doesn't say after McFarlane.
Oh, I see it. Yeah, with the feet like way up over the head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see that.
The legs plus the overall composition of the shot.
I will say that when not done in the McFarlane style, it doesn't work. Like the anatomy just looks off. Like it's too far back.
He does a lot of hip openers.
Yeah, I mean I don't think the leg goes that way. You get like McFarlane got away. Who is this?
This is Ed McGuinness, and the issue was written by Zeb Wells. The art was done by Ed McGuinness. The inks were done by Mark Farmer, which you rarely see an inked book these days, which is sort of refreshing.
You do with Ed McGuinness.
Yeah.
Colors by Marcio Muniz and Eric Arsenegia, and the letterist. Yeah, that's right. The letterist is Joey C.
So, Josh, were you surprised by the twist then, by not looking at the cover before?
So I didn't look at the cover, so it was a bigger twist, yes.
Okay.
It's interesting because the poses and stuff work well in the interiors.
Yes.
It's just like I feel like he slightly overdid it. Now, is McGuinness, and you'll get to your comic book soon enough, is McGuinness, he's after McFarlane. He's not a contemporary of McFarlane. He sort of came a long way. Like McFarlane
he's
opened
an early
the
2000s
gates.
guy.
Yeah, McFarlane opened the gates for more cartoony stuff. But yeah, and the cover's weird. You can talk about the book. Go ahead.
Okay. We've all, I think, been enjoying this run with Zeb Wells doing, I think he's written every issue with a series of rotating artists, but I really enjoyed the opening, well, I guess not quite the cold open, but the opening sequence of Spidey with the realtor and on the phone with Norman, and having that like classic situation I think we've all been in where you're on the phone, but somebody in person near you can't discern what you're saying to them versus what you're saying into the phone. And it's sort of a comedy of errors. And I actually thought Zeb Wells pulled that off in the dialogue here. So I was like, I already kind of was in and was like having fun with sort of the romp. And then the book just took a hard turn in terms of tone. And it just becomes this knockout, drag out brawl between Peter and Norman Osborn, Norman having reverted back to his Green Goblin identity. And it's sort of the rest of the issue is sort of a never-ending one-upsmanship between the two of them, where like, Norman thinks for a moment he has the upper hand, and then Spidey does something where it shows that he has the upper hand, and then Norman does something where it shows that he had the upper hand again. And I like the way it escalated. I thought it was a tour de force art piece from Ed McGuinness. I've been a fan of Ed McGuinness since the early 2000s. I think the first book I was exposed to him on was his World's Finest with Jeff Loeb, the Public Enemies arc. I don't really know what's going on with the Living Brain, but I thought that the sort of mystery, the sort of cryptic messaging that the Living Brain was putting out there with Kurt Connors was interesting.
I didn't remember where it started or where it came from. I know cool that they'd referred to a couple of times, but because of it, there was actually a sense of mystery. Like, whoa, what element is this? In a good way, because usually we know everything. But
yep. And so I just I mostly, like I said, I was mostly just drinking in the art the entire time I was reading this book, and that was the main thing for me. But I also was engaged by the story.
It's interesting because if you look at McGinnis' stuff here, and he's always been inked, so I don't know what it is, but it seems like it's softer than it was when he first came on the scene. And artists obviously evolve their styles, but I remember him being more chunky.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like his characters were really beefy and chunky, and bulky.
I think
hard
that
lines
came down. And Farmer, Farmer's an old hand, a classic. I don't mean that in a bad way, but like smooths it out and makes it look classic. That late 80s almost sort of kind of shading and line work.
The page 7 where he's swinging right at us.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Terrific.
And I thought, the thing that I noticed really the most was that it has a really good Green Goblin. It's extremely classic Green Goblin, and
it's a on the cartoony side, but it still fits within the rest of the character designs that are throughout the book.
I was so happy with this issue because, it's been interesting having Norman be his sort of Lex Luthor buddy, but the Green Goblin is one of the top 3 Marvel villains of all time, and he's been gone a long time. Mm-hmm. So I was ready for him to come back. And when the closet opens, I like the dual gag of the closet opens and it's the gold goblin suit. He's like, oh yes, I've been the gold goblin. And then you get the double reveal of it slides open further and there's the Green Goblin suit and his face turns. And I just went, yes, on the couch because we're waiting for this moment to happen of the return of Spider-Man's most deadly and fearsome villain. And it was a great issue.
I had the instinct that I was like, it's too soon. And I was like, no, it isn't. It's been a really long time. And what I don't remember again is if there were many breadcrumbs to this. I think there was at least 1 or 2 leading into it, but it did feel like they popped it on us somewhat out of nowhere. I think that's because there was no real clues going into that scene. Like he didn't go to confront Norman. He didn't start to figure something out. He went there for a different reason and because of an accident, which that was related. That's how the reveal happened. I thought that was really, really well done. Just to keep us not on our toes, actually, just to lull us into a sense of, relaxation because we're so used to these characters being together and, Norman with his understanding and sensitive eyebrows, like it had been long enough, like we believed it to a certain extent.
Yeah. And he's terrifying. He's terrifying, even though the costume, like all of these costumes, if you take a step back, they're goofy, but it's a terrifying costume. I'm so happy it's a classic cloth costume, Green Goblin, and I thought it was a nice contrast to the living brain becoming the walking brain, and then
that was such a Silver Age silly thing,
right? And it was a nice contrast to the like you had this really serious fight, and then in between that you have Connors and the other guy was like Doug or something, and the living brain.
It's one of those like "shut up, Doug" moments, and that's always a good time.
And I thought this was a terrific issue. I had so many books, like 25 books, and I didn't really think about what I would have picked, but this was certainly in the mix for it when I thought about it.
I saw that it was issue 50, and I was like, fuck, that makes this going to be long. Because of the legacy number, they're going to have their cake and eat it too. So, of course, in however many issues, in 6 more issues, they're going to do another special one because it's 950.
They get to do it twice.
I hate it. But again, it's one of those things where you sort of, I go, well, I know there's going to be backup stories. What I'm getting at here is there was a shitload of books, and I was reading them up until very recently, like a lot of the biggest week I remember in a while.
Yes.
And I was like, if I have to skip the short stories at the end because I got to get through this stuff, then I might. But we haven't mentioned them yet. But I found the backup stories in this, except the cartoony one, which I just didn't understand, the avant-garde cartoony one. I thought they were delightful. I thought they were nice little stories. Is it Jerry Conway? No, Marv Wolfman wrote a story. Wrote a story, illustrated by Terry Dodson.
Yeah.
And the whole time I was like, who is this? I couldn't place it. But then I saw it was Dodson. I was like, oh yeah, that's perfect.
But it was a sketchier Dodson than we usually get. I dug it. So
yeah. I was thinking it was what's her name who did Catwoman for a while.
Joelle Jones.
Yeah, maybe something like that. And then Crisscross, who I haven't seen in a really long time.
We saw him last week.
Great. We did?
Yeah, and the Brian Hill alien story.
Oh, that's right. Where Peter Parker gets help from a black mother. That's what he needed, was a black mother, and she had taught him about food, and it was really sweet. Although one point he did say bad guys be doing bad guys, and I thought, I don't think you can get away with that, Pete. I don't know that that's okay, even though that's how the internet kids talk. But she accepted it.
Yeah, I thought this was a great issue. The backups were fun. Even though the cartoony one had a weird story, I thought the cartoons were great.
I liked the cartoony one, I must admit.
I didn't follow it exactly, but
I just didn't get it.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was. I didn't understand why. It doesn't matter. It's not even worth the time. I like the cartooning. I thought that was nice. I liked it was at the very end because we sort of have almost like an epilogue.
Yep.
As we come back in and Connor says, "Quiet, Doug," and I love that.
That's really good. And I also that was another little mini cliffhanger of just well, if Kurt Connors is going on an adventure with the Walking Brain, I can imagine how this is going to go wrong, but I'm excited to see how it does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a really good issue. I mean, we've been loving the Zeb Wells arc for the most part. There was that one weird one in the middle with the old ancient guy, but other than that,
the setup for the whole thing was not awesome. But whatever, the Sin Eater stuff, that was but that was Jesus. Was that Nick? That
was Nick. I was going to say Offerman. Nick Spencer.
God, that was forever ago.
Right.
Yeah, I guess that's what that set that up. But he finished it. Is it Kurt Connors? That's right.
Yeah.
The lizard.
Kurt, yeah.
Is he the most?
Chicagoan.
Is he Kurt Connors? Is he the most inconsistently drawn regular guy in comics?
Probably.
I don't ever recognize him. I just he's got purple pants. He could be Banner. He could be thank God he's got the one arm, but not for him, but for us.
Well, he should take up drumming. So I
swear
I'm not going to talk about every cover, but the Sensational She-Hulk 186 or number 8, I thought it was hilarious that the week after Jen Bartel gets an Eisner nomination for best covers, we now have a different cover artist. And also, I thought that
he walked. I'm big time now.
Jen Bartel. And then I thought it was interesting that the style doesn't work when it's not her. The artist, it's Anka, right? Chris Anka on the cover? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Anka's a great artist, but Jen Bartel does a very sort of soft, romantic framing and composition for each one. It recalls a romance novel in a way. Just having the character standing there, against a red background by a regular artist who isn't framing it that particular way, it just looks weird. It just doesn't work as well as the Jen Bartel stuff, which is just interesting. That's all. That's my only comment.
But they're all takes on the John Byrne covers.
Kinda.
But then it's also on the recap page, you still have the Jen Bartel, She-Hulk in the purple pantsuit. Mm-hmm. With her hair let down, so it's interesting because you're juxtaposing it right away with the previous cover artist, and it's still that looks really good.
Yeah, it's just weird. That's all. This is a nice capper to the storyline with She-Hulk's and Jack of Hearts' date in space with Ganymede, the ex-girlfriend, showing up, and I was feeling for She-Hulk. I didn't think for a second he was going to go off with Ganymede, but still, you got to live in the moment, and I felt for her, and I thought it was a nice. And they came together well at the end, and I felt really happy for them.
Do you feel cheated in any way that we didn't see the scene where she goes? Yeah, and he basically breaks up with her? Because I feel like we spent all this time with the two of them. I don't know that it's necessary. I'll be honest. If I'm putting an editor hat on, come in late, get out early.
Right.
Do we need to see it? Probably not.
I don't want to revel in her heartbreak, and I realize she's not a real person. But she was a good character too. I liked Ganymede a lot. I know she's an old Marvel character I don't know anything about, but I didn't need to see her get destroyed.
Yeah, I guess it could have been interesting, but at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters there is that Jack makes his decision.
Yeah.
And it lets you have that other scene. And if we'd seen that scene, it would have ruined that moment. So I'm just working my way through it. I think it's the right choice.
Ganymede has such a naivete about her expectation that Jack would ever go along with this promise that he made however long ago in the continuity of this world. I also, I think my panel of the week might be Jen yelling at who she perceives as room service as leave the chicken tenders and go.
Right. That's how I always deal with.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel when there are chicken tenders in the offing and I'm hungry for them.
There is one thing I thought at the end of that scene with where she and Jack, Professor, love for each other, was they are going to have a hard time winding this out when it ends. Like, they're going deep with these two in a way they don't normally do in these kind of books. We said forever this is more of a romance comic than it is an action book, and they're going to have a hard time getting out of this in a satisfying way when eventually they have to break up. So it's going to be interesting.
He's gonna explode into the sun or something.
Right.
Yeah, it'll have to be tragic. And I really liked the little epilogue with Patsy Walker and seeing Ransack the Reject and being like, okay, here we go.
Patsy Walker's gonna have a bit of a time.
Yeah,
I like that too. I like that. She came for her fancy dress and cake date with Jen, and she wasn't there, but her alien roommates were, and one of them is very handsome, and the other one is, also invited. So
also everyone likes cake is kind of an all-time panel, at least in the Connor and Josh canon.
Yes.
From Meat is Meat and onward, everyone likes cake.
Everyone does like cake.
He's not wrong. He's serious. He comes with gravitas. He seems like a person who would be maybe not wanting to say how much he likes cake, but it is such an evident truth that even he cannot deny it.
I have a hard time imagining what inhuman food must be like, and I have a hard time imagining there's many cakes involved.
Oh, I feel like they have like sumptuous, like
really
fancy cakes.
Yeah, maybe that's going to be somebody's thing.
With 15 towers on them and stuff.
Well, what happens is
but isn't Ransack the Reject? Isn't he one of like the lower class?
Oh, I don't know.
I thought he was like the handsome. I thought he was like the handsomest of the deviants.
You don't come here for human stuff.
Who are in the third world? Who are the lower class? And then like Ambush Bug
the bug people? Yeah.
Is that what it's like?
Well, I think Ransack the Reject was he's a deviant, but he was rejected by the deviants because he's not deformed.
By the way, those are two Jack Kirby things.
Mm-hmm.
And they both have undercast societies from a man who grew up Jewish in the Lower East Side of New York in the 20s and 30s.
Yes. By the way, the house he grew up in is right around the corner from Katz's Deli. Next time I go there, I need to go and pay tribute.
Back then, you could get a sandwich for a reasonable rate.
It's still pretty reasonable. At least last time I went there a couple years ago.
It's like $32 for a pastrami on rye and an extra couple bucks if you want them to cut the fat off.
It's as big as your face.
Yeah, but you can't go in there for lunch. I mean, like, what if you don't want 40 pounds of food? What if you just want a sandwich?
You can't go in there for lunch because you won't get your sandwich until 4 p.m.
It's a tourist trap.
I love it. You got to go the off hours.
Yeah, I do too, but like, there's just not other delis left anymore.
I've been. It's delicious, but
there's only Stage is gone.
Second Avenue Deli, which is
the next time you're in DC, Connor, I got a pastrami place I can take you to.
It's okay. All right. I got a high standard.
It's a high stacked sandwich. You'll see.
Alan Scott, The Green Lantern, #6, the final issue of this terrific miniseries. Ryan, did you keep reading this?
I did. I loved it. This was almost, you told me that I could pick like my pick and then one other book, and this was almost my other book. And I hoped that you would, my will and my hope, my Blue Lantern ring was that you were going to put this on the list. So
Tim Sheridan, Kyan Tormey?
I believe it's Sean.
Sean, fucking Irish.
I mean, if I'm talking about Irish spelling,
none of their names sound the way they're spelled.
By
Sean
the way,
Tormey.
It's older than it's. Yeah, they changed the names. The white people changed the names, the spelling of them all.
I understand that.
I don't know if you remember this from the Commitments, but the Irish are the black people of Europe.
So
that's the joke.
This episode or this issue, and I guess maybe the whole miniseries turns out to be Alan in the present day, bearded Alan, telling his sort of origin story to his son Obsidian. And I thought the actual flashbacky stuff was sort of secondary. It was fun. It was a final big battle between the Justice Society, who showed up at the last page cliffhanger in the last issue, against these sort of Russian super soldiers, and then Alan's ex-boyfriend, the Red Lantern, gets killed. Vlad. And then, but really, I thought the scene with his son was terrific, and his son asking, "Hey, so like you had 2 wives and you had 2 kids. Are you like gender fluid?" And he's like, "No, I just tried to be something I wasn't for a long time. It doesn't mean I didn't love your mom. I did love her deeply." And like, I thought it was a really good conversation that they had, sort of explaining how he can be, a committedly gay man and still have had 2 wives
like Freddie
and 2
Mercury
kids.
and that lady from the movie.
Right, exactly. I thought it was really nice. And it made me really wish that DC would just commit to doing a 1940s set Justice Society book, because these miniseries have been terrific set in that time period. And it's just been so much fun. And this issue itself with the Justice Society in it was great. The final page is the Justice Society altogether after Alan Scott bullies J. Edgar Hoover to give up control of them. And it just was a great issue and a great miniseries. One of the best minis of the year for sure.
Yeah, it was really enjoyable all the way through. And the way that they were able to, I feel like Ty Sheridan's script in particular, was able to thread the needle where it didn't feel anachronistic. Like, it didn't feel like they were completely saying like, oh, it was totally fine that Alan Scott was gay in the 40s. Like, they're not saying that. They're just trying to find a way to reconcile how this character is able to feel internally about themselves while confronting the world that exists around them. And to me, it's a fiction. These are superheroes, but it just felt like it was an authentic reckoning of what a character going through that at that time, might have actually, how they would have chosen to actually deal with those circumstances. And I don't know. It's not a story I've seen told in comics before. And so I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, really beautiful. And the art is great. Really. Yeah. Sean Tormey is terrific and should draw more things.
Really good visceral, like, lantern stuff too. Like, you feel the hits on the beams and the bubbles and beams. Yeah, I mean, great faces, great. He doesn't have just a face that a lot of artists just have that one face. He's got a lot of different kind of faces. Great action. I would love if he did a.
It's Keen.
Keen.
Yeah, hard to see. I should have known that.
Keen Tormey. We're gonna get emails from the Irish.
But will we be able to read them?
They won't get around to it.
No,
they won't get around to it, or they'll either we'll put it off to later, won't you? Sure, we could send it, but either that or they will be the most florid, languid prose. It will be some of the most beautiful writing ever.
It'll make us cry.
No, like, it'll really get to the heart of what it is to be lower class.
It'll sort of mind the pain of generations.
Yep.
And then tying it to our mispronouncing of Keen's name.
Into a form of beauty that we can't help but deny. Right. But in like 100 years or so, it's still going to be hard to get to, even though you understand that Joyce is, a thing. Do you guys
think the beard that the beard mustache combo Alan had when he was older was meant to look like Vlad, his ex?
It's an interesting thing I hadn't thought of, but you're making a good point here.
And he's also talking with his son about his two beards that he's had in his life.
Interesting. Heyo. Good point, Ryan. Good job.
Well,
terrific miniseries. If you missed out on it and it comes out in trade, it's a great little JSA Alan Scott story.
You cutting through the metaphors.
JSA LGBTQI+.
So many emails this week, and just direct them to the proper person.
Yeah.
Nightwing 114. This is the final arc for Tom Taylor.
Whoa.
I feel like we've been in there for a while, but
this is the start. This is part 1.
Right.
And who has come back for that final arc? Like an old long lost love, Bruno Redondo. And he just elevates the book. He really does. I mean, the book, I think we've all been, except for the last arc with Batman, which was great. Before that, ever since Tom started also doing Titans, the book sort of fell off. And I'm not saying because of that. I'm just saying that was when it happened. And Bruno wasn't drawing anymore, and the story just kind of meandered, and the whole pirate thing was terrible. But we're back now dealing with this heart stealer guy, and I don't love it when they take away the abilities of their heroes. So here, Dick can no longer swing. He can no longer jump for some reason. I don't even remember why. So he's dealing with that.
He's just got the yips.
He's got to run around on the street instead of swinging around because he can no longer do it. But
yeah, what happened?
I don't remember.
I think it's literally. I literally think he just he got scared one day. I don't know that there's been a bigger explanation than that.
See, I don't think of all the heroes, he would never get scared. But anyway,
there has to be an inciting incident. There has to be something that triggers his trauma.
Every hero that carries a scrim of sticks has to be the man without fear. Is that the?
No, I'm saying he the child of a circus would never.
Who's been jumping around like that forever? Does it feel like he has something to lose now? Something changed. He got them. There must have been a moment. There must have been some kind of explanation.
I do have to point. I have to be fair because this is a beautiful book. I love the way he draws every character in this book. I'm kind of in love with his Barbara. So they go to this party. Barbara and Dick get all dressed up. They take the dog, bad form. And
why is there another party? They just had a gala.
I know,
now
Bruce.
they're having a gala in Gotham.
You know, sometimes you get to that echelon, Josh, and your whole every night is galas.
Whatever.
It's just galas all the time.
It's a narrative story, and we just did it like an issue ago. Go ahead.
Bruce walks up with Damian at his side. This is page 17 on your digital reader, Josh.
Damian's quite tiny, I remember.
Damian is really tiny. He comes up to Bruce's like rib cage, right? So keep in mind where Damian comes, according to Bruce. It's about below his pectorals.
Mm-hmm.
So then the next page, we have Dick standing next to Damian as they look at the camera, and Damian comes up to Dick's chin.
Okay, let's look at where the feet are. I believe that you are seeing. I think you're seeing
5'7".
I think you're seeing force perspective. I think that
He's
Damian
not,
is
I looked at the feet. His feet are next to
further. He's further in the back. Like
the feet are next to him.
I think he's a step or two behind Bruce. I also think he's hunched when he's next to Bruce, and he's standing tall next to Dick.
You're not going to add 8 inches to that. He's not that far behind. He's not that hunched.
They shot a whole Lord of the Rings like that.
I'm saying Dick and Bruce are basically the same height. I'm just saying there was a mistake to fit Damian into the same frame as Dick. Yeah. They made him tall. They made them both the wrong height on the next page.
I think that
you got to be fair about it.
And on the final page, the sprinklers go off, and nobody's hair is mussed. So
well, to be fair, Dick's hair already kind of looks like it's wet.
Yeah, that's true.
It's always must.
I think that if there's a mistake, it's the panel where it's that second panel where he looks like he's much shorter than Bruce. It's not clear that he's standing behind there. I don't think that he drew him to be short.
That's usually how short they draw Damian to be these days.
Well, I don't know.
And look at him standing next to Barbara.
He comes up to Barbara's shoulder.
He's under her shoulder.
Well, barely. No, he's too young, but whatever. I don't care.
That would make this would make Barbara about 7 inches taller than Dick. I'm just saying these two panels were a mistake, and I understand why they did them, but the heights are wrong.
That's fine.
Beautiful book, otherwise.
So here's the problem here is that for some reason we're talking about other books, and no one made Cobra Commander 5 the pick of the week, and it's stupid that you didn't do that. It's the first book I read, and I was like, that's the best book probably ever. I mean, I could be exaggerating, but
wow.
I'm pretty sure that Destro going from his leisure wear as head of Mars to go to Springfield in his like he put on his large collared battle gear as one does. And then Cobra Commander.
You want a naval plunge on your deep V when you're in your battle mode.
Cobra Commander. By the way, Cobra Commander's jacket has a similar necked ruff. This must be a thing. In I don't know, mega villain. I'm not super villain, but you know what I mean. Then a bunch of people are killed, and he's like, "Hey, your guest. I was just showing you what it's like." Destro takes it. He's like, "No, that makes sense. Let's go see what he's got to see." Goes into a giant lab, which is what there should be. Anytime they need one, there should be an endless supply of money for infrastructure. There's a scientist, Dr. Laszlo Vandermeer, one of the leading scientific minds in every field.
I did laugh out loud.
He has assisted my genius with unlocking a new element. Isn't that right? So right away, that's straight out of the cartoon. That's delightful. But there was murder just before it. Then he whips off his jacket. Somebody
hold on. The doctor then says, "Please kill me." To the
right. Excellent.
Which that's the part. That's the part I actually had an issue with because I know a lot of professors at universities where if they had access to this kind of funding,
their morals go right out the window.
Yeah, they would become the expert in every field.
So a bat flies in with some clothing for him to change on the street. Why did he do it there? Why didn't he just come out wearing it? Who knows? Then he goes and gives a rally in a gigantic hall. Springfield's already established. He announces Cobra. Cobra is comprised of gun-toting rednecks.
Mm-hmm.
Book of the year.
Book of the year. Wow.
Book of the year. This is, what year is it? Book of the century so far.
I think that this was a great issue. You're right about that. And I liked how they tied in sort of both origins of Cobra Commander. The comics and the cartoons, where the comics he was the failed salesman who used his charisma to whip up a bunch of disaffected men into a Cobra, and in the cartoon it became all about Cobra Law. So they kind of combined them here. And didn't they say at one point he was an outsider for Cobra Law? Didn't they say that?
He's not. Yeah, no, he's a human.
So maybe they just, they found a way to sort of weave them all together, even if I don't ever want to see any of the Cobra people. That's fine.
He wasn't, well, it leads to a lot of questions, which is just what good art does. When he says he was once a man, was he always a man? Did they turn him into a snake like, oh yeah, you want to be part of us? Well, here, now you're a snake? Because I thought he'd always been a snake, but now I'm thinking.
No, I think that the gas turned him into a snake, I thought.
Yeah, so he was a man the whole time. That's why he was the outside. He was never a snake person. He just went and lived with snake people and bug people.
I'm excited for more.
I don't know why we're talking about other comics.
Apparently, Scarlet had a huge pre-order number.
Nice. Like
the biggest G.I. Joe sale in forever. That was the press release they put out.
Crazy.
But I thought this was good. I hope that changing to different characters won't dull the momentum of the story, and instead of just having it be a continuous comic. But we'll see.
I think a thing that's happening here is that Kirkman and his editorial team are bringing a lot of great writers in. There is a combined vision that is being gone after, and it's being handled well. There is a consistency with the characters that everybody kind of knows to begin with. So you've got that going for you. I mean, I think it promises to continue to be a hell of a lot of fun.
I'm excited. It's my most exciting corner of comics. I'm going to keep saying it. The Energon G.I. Joe and the Real American Hero.
But here we are talking about it 6 books down. We're wasting our time talking about other comics.
Blood Hunt, number 2. I've read every Blood Hunt book but one.
Both issues of Blood Hunt.
No, all the times. I've read every tie-in issue.
I read issue 1. I read issue 2. And
I'm liking it. I'm really enjoying it.
I'm actually liking it a lot too. I think this is one of the better events. What's an event anymore these days in comics? But I think this is one of the better events Marvel's done in a while.
Here's my only concern. It's another art problem. And it's not a problem, it's just bizarre. Who told Pepe Larraz that Tiger had giant cat ears? Because she doesn't. And she's not portrayed that way in any of the books. But here he's got her giant cat ears peeking out of her hair. It's weird.
But Cobra Commander told Ripper he could leave. And Ripper was like, I'm not going. You're going to shoot me in the back. And Cobra Commander's like, you got some brains after all. I mean, that's fucking classic.
Yeah, it was good. At one point, Dracula's standing with the Avengers in the big team hero pose. And I was like, well, I guess now Dracula's an Avenger.
But also in the Sunshine, is Dracula a Daywalker too?
I don't know.
There's no sun.
I don't know.
Is there sun? Wait,
they bust through the sun at the end.
Yeah,
well,
but
it's vision emitting solar. Vision emits solar energy, and then Captain Marvel punches through the darkness into the sun. But yeah. Dracula. I mean, Blade's daughter, I assume, is also a Daywalker, but. I don't know anything about that character, but Dracula, it's sort of like Falcon Cap sort of has his wing, you could almost imagine, but he's in fully lit. You can just, the lighting portrays.
I thought all of this was fun. I thought the stuff with Doctor Strange was good. I thought the stuff with the Avengers was good. Miles Morales was fun.
Maybe they're like those ears on a headband.
Oh, there you go.
The kids wear.
So she's cosplaying as
as herself. Yeah,
but it's just weird.
Tiger's, that is weird. I miss Tigra. I was like, I haven't seen her forever. That's
she's been in the Moon Knight book for years not years, but at least a year as his girlfriend.
I went flipping back through this thing trying to find if there was something that happened in the background or something we saw where Miles got bit, and it doesn't exist.
I assumed he was bit before he met up with them, and it was sort of like a ruse to get into.
Maybe, I guess, but unless I bet maybe that scene is in the Red Band version of this comic or whatever.
Maybe.
But that was kind of weird because it was from out of nowhere in this book. Maybe, could have been some book I didn't, but you read most of them. I mean, I don't know.
The only one I didn't read was Venom, so unless he got bitten Venom.
That's weird structure.
I found myself reconciling with the design of Dracula. I've never loved the Marvel design, and I know they can't make him look like Bela Lugosi because it's a universal rights likeness issue. But by the end of it, I thought, well, he kind of looks like the Dracula from Coppola's film, long hair. I get it, but I just don't like the armored.
They should make him look like Nine-Door.
I just make him like Martin Landau. Yeah, make him look like Martin Landau. That'd be great. But I liked it. I had fun, and I'm enjoying all these. There's a lot of them, but I'm enjoying them all.
In the Isle of Manhattan, Josh. This is how we talk in Arizona.
He does have a certain charisma. Okay. So is there anything anybody has left to say about Cobra Commander before I go into my prepared comments?
Are you going to be sad when you can't get another issue?
Well, I mean, I assume they're going to keep giving it. There's going to be a Destro one, right?
And Destro and Scarlet, I believe, are the next two.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Can't miss. Can't miss.
I'm excited.
It's just joy and picture and words. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. Yep. It's great. I won't talk about it anymore. Well, I can't. I'm not promising.
You can do what you want. This is free country.
Yeah. I guess I can talk about Patreon. That seems like a good way to go. That's if you love Cobra Commander and you like the show, because if you don't, then you don't need to listen. Go to patreon.com. Patreon.com. I made myself laugh. Patreon.com/iFanboy. You can support the show. You can unlock shows for everybody. At one point, there was talk about unlocking a G.I. Joe show, and nobody went for it, which is good because I don't have time for that. But maybe we could just cancel the rest of the shows and just like really zoom in on this. I believe specificity is the thing.
I'm telling you, the audience is split on the G.I. Joe stuff, but I'm
guessing we lose our base, but we can bring in a lot of other old nerds.
Great.
If we just switch to an all. Yeah, it's well, yeah.
This is the different.
You're not wrong. Become a part of a great community on Discord and Facebook, and also support my new Patreon, patreon.com/Josh and Cobra Commander. This is a rough bit. If you go, yearly membership is 10% off. Tier exclusive merch, $5 higher level, you'll get a patron power. Wait for that one later. Access to the Discord server. And the new, I think you can guess what the new channel is going to be in there. $10 or higher level gets you access to an ad-free feed of this show. Patreon.com/iFanboy. Go to iFanboy.threadless.com. There's merch. There's stuff. There's 13 designs you can have put on many things. T-shirts, just the simplest of them, but it goes on and on. What can happen? Did you want a phone case that has a silhouette of Tom Hanks's head on it? I don't know.
This is the right man. GDAT. Who knows who said that is?
Right. Well, it's all about the imagination, though.
Sure. Fill in the blanks yourself, or fill in the silhouette yourself.
I don't think using a silhouette of a head is copyright. Now I know we should be careful, and I'm not saying that's what it is. Just apropos of nothing.
Isn't the term silhouette named after a guy?
What?
All right, we don't have time for this.
iFanboy.com/support has a PayPal link if you want to support the show in the most basic and an unencumbered way possible. No one can blame me for that. Life's too complicated. Go to iFanboy.com/Amazon. That's a general shopping link. Buy things through there. It's an excellent way to support the show. That requires almost no effort on your part at all. Just bookmark that bad boy and go to town. Order batteries, an air conditioner,
whatever you want.
RC car tires. Anyways, that's what I've been ordering lately. Bookshop.org aggregates local bookstores so you can order books through them and help out some of the greatest small businesses that we have in our culture. You'll find links for that where it's appropriate. Let's do this thing.
So, Ryan, this is exciting for you. This is your inaugural foray into the Bell. The Bell segment's back, everybody. We usually only do it around August when they do the post-Comic-Con comic dump, but this was a very similar week. Again, I had 25 books. I don't know how many you guys had.
I was also in the 20s. I lost count.
It was a lot.
20, 25, and maybe others that didn't make the list in the end. So, yeah.
So we decided we'd bring back the Bell. And if you're new to the show and you haven't been listening in the last couple months, you don't know what this is. We put time on the clock. Each person gets that much time to talk about the book. The bell rings, and the next person goes. Now, normally it's 20 seconds. Josh lobbied today for 15. So we're going to try that and see how that goes.
I second my colleague from New Hampshire's motion.
All right, so we're putting 15 seconds on the clock. You got to be
every
precise.
Every time one of these rings, What happens with the angels? Is that
they get
wings? Situation
we're giving out wings
does apply? Is it one angel who just keeps getting more and more wings?
Yeah, this is getting really heavy with wings. No,
like
a
they're
different
like,
angel
stop doing more books.
So now, how
we're talking about
wild
books, we're giving
are these
out
buffalo wings, and how wild are they?
All right, so we're gonna get going here. 15 seconds on the clock. I have both the bell and the timer,
and the butt.
And I am going to attempt to keep track of all of these things. And I'm also starting. So I'm going to do 3, 2, 1, then go. And then we're going to get ready. Is everybody ready? Are you loosened up?
Do you have an analog stopwatch?
No, I've got my phone.
I can't believe you don't have a... Hold on. Let me go to Amazon.com/iFanboy.
Guy watches 60 Minutes every week. Doesn't have a...
Can you...
No, but I have...
You honestly believe he doesn't...
I have the sound effect on my computer, though.
Do you have a pocket watch?
Yeah, I have a pocket watch. It's right here.
Yeah, okay.
But actually, I have to wind it.
Okay. Oh, okay. That's what I needed to hear. Yeah. Is it next to your leather blotter and fountain pen desk set?
It's next to my fountain pen.
With those two... those two little pen holders, like you're at a bank, but instead you're like a Gilded Age executive. Want to do the books? We can do the books.
Yeah. I also wear my leather apron.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do this. 3, 2, 1, go. The Batman First Night, Book 3, the final issue of this terrific black label 3-issue miniseries, although they were all oversized. It was about 6 issues with the comics. Dan Jurgens, Mike Perkins, wonderful Batman story set in 1939. And, my favorite Batman thing happening at the moment it's over, I would be like, what? Next up.
Gotta be shot.
I'm sorry.
You got to ring yourself. Predator The Last Hunt is the last issue. Predator The Last Hunt 4? That doesn't seem right. Might be 5, whatever, 4. I've wasted my time. It is the last issue of this and possibly of the story. It ended with one of those, is this the end? She killed the big bad Predator who had been hunting her, lost an arm. It would be a shame to not bring this character.
Void Rivals number 9. The 2 characters whose names I can never quite keep straight make it to the central zone area, and they meet a giant Autobot, and they have a really funny conversation where he confuses Handroid's voice with the main character's voice because neither of their lips move, and then the assassin shows up, and there's a big fight.
Union Jack Ripper Blood Hunt. This was the only other Blood Hunt book this week. And I really liked it. It had Kev Walker art.
Yep.
And featured the Union Jack character from that Union miniseries that was pretty fun that a couple years ago. And so this was the vampire action in England, and I had fun with it.
Holy Roller number 6 pulled a Garth Ennis in this one, where the man that they beat to the point where he could only say the word pudding recognizes the error of his ways and becomes part of their team. The roommate is still aggrieved, but he hasn't kicked them out and he hasn't left yet. This book is better than it should.
X-Men 97 number 3, the X-Men, or the 90-sance in general, continues. This is the X-Men are attacked on 3 different fronts, and everything goes haywire and crazy, and it's just a good old nostalgic time. The dialogue sings exactly like you expect their voices to be in the show, so I'm loving
it. Sanction number 1 from Mad Cave. Took a flyer on this. It's a crime book set in pre-USSR Russia. Has shades of Gorky Park. Body found in the city, and they got to find. There's only one cop that's willing to investigate, and fuck me.
Blow Away number 2. This is not a good book.
Okay.
It's not a good book. I want it to be, and it's just not. Why are there young, sexy police and researchers in the Arctic? Have you never used a GoPro?
Ultimate Black Panther number 4. I'm enjoying the story. It's the war between Moon Knight and Wakanda is ramping up. The thing I can't stand, Ultimate Black Panther's costume. It's clunky, it's dumb, he's got an open mouth hole for some reason. Not a fan of the costume.
Wonder Woman number 9, Tom King and Samper. Terrific issue in which Wonder Woman's living in her head. She's conjured a version of Steve Trevor to keep her sane, and they sort of live all these different moments in time together. And okay.
Black Widow and Hawkeye number 3. This is not a good book.
Oh, no.
I'm reading all of them. It's not a good book. I don't know what you want to tell me. There was a flashback scene with
Butcher's Boy, or The Butcher's Boy #1, a horror comic about a group of friends who all seem to fucking hate each other, end up in a ghost town, mining town, I think somewhere in California, and there's going to be cannibalism. It's going to be gross and weird. I kind of dug it, but it was also like, these characters all suck.
Batman Superman World's Finest 27 wraps up the Mitzi's Pitalik story, and I just love the way that Mark Waid weaves in the entire DC universe when appropriate. It makes it feel like a larger world. He gets to play with these characters. Dan Moore gets to draw them. It's wonderful.
Blue Book 1947 #4. Good book. Good book. Thanks, Ryan, for pointing it out to me. It's a good book.
5 seconds.
I yield my time.
I agree with Josh. Blue Book 1947 is also a good series. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers #120. Didn't love this issue. Wasn't great.
Oh, wow.
Didn't feature Rangers that I'm familiar with nor a fan of. Ready to move on to something else.
Order up. We're done. How did you guys feel about having 5 fewer seconds?
I think it worked. I think it was exactly the way you could say something, but we still get the fun of being cut off.
All right. Well, there we go. That was the Bell segment. We talked about 15 books there. Can I make one comment about one book? Can we make one comment about one book, each book? Not each book, but one comment each about a book.
Can you just say the thing you want to say?
I really like the flashbacks in Black Widow and Hawkeye. I don't care about the main story.
That's what I started to say.
I want to live in the flashbacks. I wish that was the book.
He had his costume on. They'd modernized it slightly. By the way, do that now.
Right.
Good stuff.
But it was also like retelling her origin. Like I just liked that bit. The other stuff with hers of Venom and all this stuff. No good.
It's not a good book.
All right. Stephanie Phillips is a good writer. I just don't like the. Anyway.
I understand.
All right. So those are the books we wanted to talk about. But at patreon.com/ifanboy, every patron gets a vote out a book to the rundown. And as appropriate for this week of comics, in which there were so many choices, the patrons couldn't decide. There was like 6 books in the mix. But then, like a freight train or Seabiscuit or whatever you want to say, coming around the final turn, Archie Comics Judgement Day #1 ended up taking it. Written by Aubrey Sitterson, drawn by Megan Hutchinson, colors by Matt Herms, and letters by Jack Morelli. This is a 3-issue miniseries in which demons come to Riverdale, similar to how zombies came to Riverdale in Afterlife with Archie. This is demons.
Did anything happen before this? Or we just thrown into it?
This is it.
Okay.
This is it.
Just making sure.
I thought that was the biggest issue, was that there was not enough information. I understand getting thrown into the middle of the story. They give you a little 2-page spread about how the demons get there. It was Dilton Doily. It's always Dilton who always does this. It's scientists run amok. I think we've had several books this week that show us the danger of trusting in science and scientists.
Right, but in real life, how often have scientists unleashed demons onto the earth?
That we know about?
Yeah, maybe they cover it up. Maybe big media is covering it up.
Uh-huh.
You wouldn't know if they had, is the problem.
Right.
Like, what if
it feels like a lot, the way things are going.
I'm just saying,
right,
there's a movie called Spotlight that I would encourage that presents the other side of the morality play between science and religion.
What does that have to do with anything? By the way, excellent film. Like, what are you bringing in the Catholic Church for?
You're talking about scientists covering up releasing demons. I'm talking about other organizations also covering up their demons.
All right. Well, you're trying to deflect from the issue of scientists being evil. So,
I mean, let's just like 2 out of 3 podcasters agree that scientists are the problem.
I didn't like this issue, and I was trying to figure out why, because I loved Afterlife with Archie, but I think that zombies fit the aesthetic of Archie and Riverdale and sort of that 50s pulp thing, even though Afterlife with Archie was set to present, it still always has that underlying. And I think sort of doing a book that recalled those, 50s horror movies worked. This didn't really work. It was a lot of like demons tearing people apart, and I didn't know why anything was really happening other than they were summoned, but people were still sort of living their lives with demons running around. Like Jughead was at the diner eating hamburgers, even though there's demons flying around. Hamburgers. It just was weird. I didn't think it worked. And I think for only 3 issues, there needed to be more information that happened in this book, I think.
I think it probably helps to have some grounding in Archie to at least appreciate what's going on with the characters. Like whatever you just said about so and so causing, I don't know what that means. I don't.
Well, Dilton was the one who brought forth the zombies. He was the one that did the time travel, that time travel book. It's always Dilton. It's always the scientists.
Right. I'm saying I don't even know what you're talking about.
Identified, put on lists, and jailed.
Before when I said Jughead loves hamburgers.
Right.
That's it. That's all of my Archie knowledge. And so they're all just kind of ciphers for regular characters, which I guess is kind of what Archie is, just Richie Cunningham. But I think that you make a valid point about the meshing of concepts and why zombies would work where demons won't, in a way, or like vampires. Anything that there was a movie about in the 50s, you can put in here, but there weren't demon movies. Demons is like a 90s Vertigo Comics thing.
Right.
Or like a 70s movie thing. And I think that the Aubrey Citizens, Aubrey Citizen, is the right guy to do it. I mean, he's really good at that language, that arch kind of, Robert E. Howard or dark sci-fi kind of, not sci-fi, dark fantasy kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end, I kind of don't care. Like it was fun, but like, oh, okay, I thought the art was really lovely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the art was terrific.
But again, it wasn't very Archie. So these characters could have been anyone.
Yeah, like Archie felt really comfortable with everything that was happening.
Right, that was the thing. Like everyone was too comfortable.
Well, that's what made me think that it had been like this for a while.
That's what I mean. But they didn't give any context to know. Maybe it had been years, and everyone's sort of comfortable with it. That's fine. But we didn't know anything, so it was hard to get a handle on what it was supposed to be happening. Ryan, what did you think?
I didn't dislike it from a storytelling. I'm not an Archie guy. I mentioned that when we were talking before the show. This book was not on my radar, as are most Archie books are not. And so I don't know. I came into this with sort of like Josh, only the vaguest sense of archetypally who these characters are. And then I think maybe the distinction between a zombie story and a demon story is like the zombies, if a character gets bitten, it's almost always an accident. Whereas like here, Archie like seems to volunteer to take on a demon. So there's a sort of the accident of the apocalypse versus the volunteering to be a part of what's going wrong in the world. That I don't know. I don't know the character of Archie well enough to know if that fits. And then you've got sort of this evil doppelganger Archie who's the devil on his shoulder. And it was just strange.
Let me ask you a question. Did he have sex with that woman? That demon woman?
Or did he have sex with the demon?
I think he did. Like it was like they were talking about there was the ecstasy, and then next to her face, she's definitely having an orgasm. Like
I think like the demon shit always has fucking, and even if he didn't write it,
he implied it.
I hope that issue 2 has a pull quote from Josh Flanagan, iFanboy. Demon shit always has fucking.
I mean, I can ask him. Like they fucked here, right?
I wasn't. Yeah, stuff. I like Aubrey Citizen's work generally, but I think just from the concept doesn't really work as in the Archie world. I think they just needed more information. I think if you only have 3 issues, you really gotta have more exposition, just because there's not a lot of real estate. And yeah, I mean, I was a little disappointed. I loved I guess you guys didn't read Afterlife with Archie. That was maybe just me and Paul at the time, but that was a really good book. But again, it fits that aesthetic of the 50s. Sci-fi horror, thing.
It's almost like, and I don't want to write it. I'm trying to figure out what would have worked, because I think that clearly the choice was we're going to do this completely straight face. There's not going to be any funny about it. Right. There's not going to be any winking of any kind, and that is a good choice. But I think that buries the fact that it's an Archie book. We've done the thing where there's different kinds of Archie, the serious Archie book or the whatever Archie book. I don't know. Like, if maybe they need to be a couple more gags.
Archie's pretty serious, but
I get it.
It just wasn't. But it wasn't as, I don't know. It just it was better. It was just better. I don't know. It worked. It worked. It worked immediately. Whereas this felt weird. It felt weird. Ratings on Archie Comics Judgment Day #1.
3.
I'm going to go 2.5. Sticking with it.
Is it 2.5 because you have a more emotional attachment to Archie than Josh or I?
No, I just didn't think. I don't think. I just didn't think it worked. It didn't tell me enough story. Again, with only a couple issues left, I need to know much more about what's happening. I just felt from a comic standpoint. How long has this been going on? What are the stakes? Steaks. So
I'm thinking about burgers with Jughead there at the diner.
So, sticking with it, 2 more issues.
I will not be.
I might read the next one. I usually read what Aubrey writes.
All right. I'm not.
That's
Patreon.com/iFanboy. If you give it, thanks for being a patron and voting. We appreciate every patron. We appreciate every patron who votes. But if you give it the $5 higher level, you get a superpower live on the show. Like this guy who I'm convinced is a private investigator in the 1980s on a 1-hour NBC action adventure show who does not play by the rules.
Ryan.
Am I supposed to? And that person is. I thought you were going to introduce them, and I was going to say the power. Sorry, and that not by the books. Damn your rules and regulations. I'm trying to stop bad guys. Is Joe Cannon, and Joe can retroactively change facts about his own life history, but he cannot undo those changes. That's right. He's retro canon.
He can retcon his life.
But he can't undo that. So, like, if he retcons his life that, like, he stepped in a bear trap and lost his foot, like, that foot's gone.
But can't he then retcon that?
No. Like, any change
can't go back any further?
He could say that that's not him. That was actually his twin brother.
There you go.
And then he walks back into the, come on, man. You gotta soap opera that shit. Fred Dryer is Joe Cannon.
So
this week, the role of Joe Cannon was played by... That's how he does it. That's how he gets it.
Are you sticking with your guns here?
Yeah, I am.
Just like Joe Cannon does, he always sticks with his guns.
Yeah, unless I decided that I hadn't stuck to my guns in the first place, in which case that would be retroactively true.
This is a minefield.
Imagine how his family feels.
Now the other question is, I know the answer. I'm just going to ask it. I assume that no one else around him knows that there's been a change because it's a retcon.
No,
right? That would... reality changes around them.
Yeah,
I see.
But he can only do it about his own life.
Go ahead. Well, no, what were you saying? This is it. You were adding an element that I
was just reinforcing that it's his own life that he can change aspects of. He can't, and there will be probably butterfly effects and ripples, but he has no active control over those aspects of things.
Ripples in the pond. Yeah, it's a
real Ashton Kutcher situation.
Yeah.
All right, Joe. Be careful. Be careful of your retconning.
Power and a curse.
Thanks for being a patron. Patreon.com/iFanboy is how you can do it. And the $5 higher level gets you Superpower Live in the show. Let's do an email from Patrick from Maine. Patrick goes, man, what happened to Free Comic Book Day? My LCS stopped participating. The closest location was Newberry Comics in the Maine Mall, which is barely a comic store.
South Portland.
It's in South Portland, okay. Which is barely a comic book store. The comics were relegated to a small space in the corner where it was me and 2 other 40-year-olds. Sad.
Can you just go over to Casablanca in Portland? That's a good shop in there. Did that close?
What about your buddy's shop, Josh? Do they still do Free Comic Day?
They don't do comics. They're a bookstore. Wait.
I thought they were a comic store.
Maine? Yeah, no. In here, Double Midnight in New Hampshire, they do it. But
right, that's what I'm saying.
I don't know where he is. That's a good 2 hours at least. If his closest comic shop's in the mall there, I mean, he's close enough. He could just go into Portland. It's in the old port. There's a good shop there. I'm sure they do it. If you want to drive a little farther, there's like an hour farther to Jetpack in Portsmouth, right across the border. So you're not going to pay sales tax. You got that going for you. Place is fucking mint, guy.
I think it all depends on your store and your location. I know that here in Los Angeles, the Free Comic Book Day is still a big party at the stores here. Like Golden Apple takes over the whole block with live events. They actually asked us to, or they asked me. I didn't tell this to Josh, but they asked me if we would broadcast live from the party.
Really?
I was like, we're not equipped for that.
I mean,
they do all kinds of stuff. They do a whole situation. So it just depends on your store and where you are.
The other thing though is that I stopped going because it seems like it's for bringing in new people. I don't.
It's for kids. and new
it's
people.
For kids, it's like, like, hey, if you always wanted to read the Avengers but you never did, like, it's that. There wasn't anything I wanted. It's just like a bunch of short zero issues or whatever.
It's not really for us. And the thing is, like, I've always said this. This is my comics community. Is iFanboy? It's you guys. It's the Discord. Back when we had a website, it was the website. Like, that's my comics outlet. I don't. And actually, the next email is going to ask this question too. But I don't. I went a couple of times when I first moved to LA. Mostly because we were still hanging out with in the industry, and so I went to see people and stuff. But I haven't been in many years. But it's still going on here pretty heavily based on my conversation.
Like before there was, they're like, come to the store, see, what comic shops are really like. Here's some books, make some friends, but after you've been doing it forever, maybe you like going to the party or whatever, but
Ryan, do you
I don't fucking care.
Free comic days happen around you?
Yeah, I think they do, but I don't, again, I don't participate in them. It's also weird because, like, especially I think with the shift of DC releasing their books on a different day than Marvel and the rest of the industry, like, the Saturday is not a day I'm thinking about, like, going and getting new comics in the first place, because my days for new comics are Tuesday, Wednesday.
Right.
I will say that, we went the one and only comic, I guess we took Cal to the comic shop a couple of times, but one of the comic shops we took Cal to recently, they had a decent kids book section, but, like, he just wasn't vibing with any of the stuff that was available, and eventually they just pulled out, like, a Spider-Man comic they had left over from Free Comic Book Day, and, like, he loves that book. Like, it's a great little, it's it's a great little Spider-Man book that he asked me to read to him quite regularly. So, like, I do think there's value in those books that get put out, even though they're free, haha. But it's not. I think what Connor, you said about, like, it's not part of my community of comics. It's not part of my routine of getting comics.
It's all going to depend on what the reading community is around the store. So if there's not a lot of people reading comics around your store, and they do it because they got to pay for this stuff, it's free for you, but not for the store. So if they did this, if it's not leading to
sales,
and if people aren't showing up with their kids and hanging out all day, and there's not people doing sketch, like,
buying stuff,
then there's no point in doing it if you're the store. So
or if it's not creating new customers. So you do it and you don't see a bump in your sales over the next 2 months, you're not going to buy the books the next time. You're not going to go through the whole rigmarole.
Right. So, but if you're in LA and there's a bunch of people coming and creators come because a lot of them live here to do signings and sketches, like, it's a whole big carnival, then you're going to do it. But if you're in a place where there's not a lot of people, then it may not happen. I
wonder what Patrick's, like, looking for. Is he looking for, like, the feeling of, like, when he first went there? Does he want that again? Did he like the party atmosphere? Did he?
Maybe he likes the books. People like the books.
Maybe some free comics or whatever. But maybe that's what it is. I'd be curious to see what it is that he misses about it.
Yeah. Because I remember it was David Brothers. I tweeted back in the David, former contributor. I think it was a contributor to iFanboy, right?
Yeah.
He tweeted, I thought, one of the great comics tweets of all time, and he said the difference between being addicted to comics and being addicted to heroin is you typically finish the heroin you have before you go buy more heroin.
Right.
And so I feel like Free Comic Book Day is just like, well, here's just another stack of books on top of all the books that I haven't read.
It's a fucking quality point, Bob.
Yeah.
Well, Sam P has an email similar, or at least one of his questions is in the same vein. Sam P from South London, England says, I'm outraged, I tell you. I've just read some reports that the preview for Absolute Power by Wade and Mora was one of the worst performing Free Comic Book Day offerings of 2024. Granted, a lot of these free books from DC over the years have led to not great events, Year of the Villain, Convergence, Night Terrors, etc. But how can anyone not be excited for World's Finest Team on a big book like this? Plus Wade writing all the tie-ins? Outrageous! 2 questions. 1, does a creative team transitioning from an ongoing series to an event book excite you or make you nervous that things are about to jump the shark? And 2, I don't feel like I've heard you talk about Free Comic Book Day much recently. Do you get any of the issues, or as digital readers, does it pass you by? I've been filled with outrage over these questions for the last 10 minutes. This has left no time available for thinking about them.
One thing I know is you don't want a mate, you don't want a bloke from South London outraged. It's just going to lead to trouble.
Right.
I'm saying?
Someone's going to get a mug smashed over their head.
So what's important is to know I can't keep this up as long as I could do the Maine accent. I will mess up. I probably mess that doesn't even sound right.
Let's do the free combo day question first, and then the other one. So,
we just did. I mean, we pretty much
do you ever read the issues?
No.
I think Ryan actually summed it up. Like, I don't want more. The
issues are usually previews for stuff that's going to happen.
If I can't understand the stuff that's happening, then it's a failure on their part. Like, I'm not doing it.
There was a time when I stopped going to the stores that they would make the issues available digitally for free, and I would read them. I guess I just stopped doing it at some point because, like Josh just said, if I can't follow the event without that issue, then it's a mistake. So
we're not lacking for content,
and also those issues are usually like intros, and we don't need that. Like there was
a big Energon one, but again, like if it happens in the main books, then
and it's not like Josh isn't enjoying the Energon books.
It's if you were to tell me like, Josh, there's fucking Storm Shadow 0, I'd be like, all right.
Is Patrick from Maine still here?
Well, that's not him. I'm just talking to him in his language.
I want to make it clear. I don't begrudge anyone from going to Free Comic Day or enjoying the books. I don't
think I'm the audience. That's my point.
My iFanboy is my outlet for all this community, and so I don't need it. But if you don't have the community, then go and have fun and enjoy it. I just don't. I've got it. We've been doing it for 24 years.
So the question is, does a creative team transitioning from an ongoing series to event books excite you or make you nervous at things about to jump the shark? Go on.
I guess I don't think about it. It all depends on the execution. I'm not super excited about the story because it's so Amanda Waller Peacemaker centric. But I'm excited because it's Wade and it's more doing an event book, so
But they're leaving the thing you like so much.
Are they?
I don't know. I mean, I guess they can do more, but Mora's going to die, mate. You can't keep this up.
Well, Mora might not draw World's Finest for a while, but he didn't for a while when he was doing Shazam. So
I think sometimes when a team is on something for so long that it's really good and you're used to it, and you start to get worried that it's not, you can't keep up forever. It's just too,
Yeah, but I still think I think this gets back to a little bit of what we've talked. I feel like we've circled around to this point many times, but when at least when I was really, really getting back into comics, was sort of a golden age of like the 60 issue run with the mostly same creative team. And I got to admit, like as much as I'm still chasing that high. I'm still chasing that relationship with a creative team, relationship with a story. And we don't really get that anymore.
Right.
Because the books
we don't know that they're leaving.
Well, also,
just because they're doing the event, we don't know that means that Wade. I can't imagine if Wade is doing this and all the other books. I don't know. I just can't imagine they would.
It's like anything where like you like something, right? So Jason Aaron and Aram Guerra are doing a book for a long time. Mm-hmm. They finish it. You loved it. It was great. A year later, they're like, "Oh, we're doing this other book," and I say like 9 times out of 10, it's shit. Or does it finish? Or like
their book didn't finish. It wasn't shit. It didn't finish.
They don't. No, I don't mean that. I mean like they don't repeat it. You want more of the same, but they finished it and they go on the next one. It's different, or it's shorter. The feeling isn't necessarily just those people working together, but kind of story they're telling, right?
Well, yeah. I mean I think the only thing I can think of is Snyder and Capullo doing the DC Metal event, and it wasn't good because the concept wasn't good, and
but like. All the things come together once, right? And so Preacher is Ennis and Dylan, and it all comes together in the thing. They come by the Punisher. It's not the same, but so you can't repeat it. Is what I'm saying. Regardless if it's an event book or whatever, it's going to be a different thing.
So if we just take the question at face value, does it make you nervous? No, not necessarily, because unless they said, "Hey, Wade and Mora are stopping World's Finest to do." What the fuck is this called? Absolute Power. Then it would make me nervous, but I haven't heard that. So
I think I hit on something internally as to why it doesn't make me nervous, but I think why I'm also not super excited by events.
Yep.
And it's because the promotional material surrounding the events, whether they say this explicitly or not, the feeling they're trying to drum up is everything is going to change. Nothing will ever be the same. We're about to rock the foundations of the DC universe, rock the foundations of the 616.
Sounds like every arc in Batman.
It's every arc of every comic book ever.
Right. And so it never, like that, and even if it does change something significant, even if Dan DiDio gets to kill Dick Grayson, which he failed in his coup attempt.
Don't even put that out in the universe.
It doesn't last forever. And we know that as longtime comic book readers, we know that. So we know, I feel like the three of us, our expectations are modulated by our experience. So we know.
I disagree.
It's the dance. It's what it is.
Yeah. You have to live in the moment of the story because every story will eventually change. So you have to read these comics as they happen in front of you and not think about, oh, this will be different in 5 issues. Like you have to live in that moment with the characters. Otherwise you can't enjoy anything.
Okay,
so,
but I feel like
I'd also say that there was a time when the events did pay off that way. You had that all the way through,
but now it's a surprise.
Certainly, like the Crisis, like Infinite Crisis and Final Crisis, all paid off in that way. Civil War paid off in that way. Secret Invasion didn't really, but like there was a moment through the early 2000s where the events still did, and it reflected in the excitement and the sales, and that was all anybody talked about were the events.
Yeah,
and then they stopped, and I don't know why, but I just don't like. If absolute power is good, great. If it's not, it doesn't bother me because there have been so many lackluster events for the last 10 years. That's why I'm kind of enjoying Blood Hunt so much because it's fun right now.
I think the thing is that like the events overpromise. So we get used to, and we've gotten used, they're going to say it. So when it's good, it's like, oh, it's a surprise. Blood Hunt sounds stupid. It's just, bloody vampires.
That's what I said when I heard about it, but it's been fun.
Right. I kept that longer than I thought. I'm going to stop now.
Yeah. I'm
okay. You really went with it. You all went with it. And I was like, all right.
Well, we've
tolerated.
We've had years of
I don't do it much anymore.
I know. I liked it. That's why I let you go.
All I would say is that, I obviously I understand the term jumping the shark, and I've felt stories doing that in the past, but also like Fonzie jumped over a shark with skis. That's pretty awesome. Like,
yeah, but that was anyway. Let's not get into that. I don't know. I have no expectations for this event, even though it's Wade and Mora. I'm going to read it, but I'm keeping my expectations low on it. And I think most people are.
I've never heard of it before at this point.
Same,
but
we've talked about it on the show.
Okay,
we have.
Well, it didn't stick.
Things were leading to the absolute power of the big event that Wade is doing. We talked about it.
I have no recollection of that. I understand like it's leading to a thing. Because everything's always leading to a thing. The point is like the promotion, the marketing, the what. I don't know. Yeah. I just get the book when it comes.
There really
up
hasn't been much. Or at least we haven't seen it.
I don't. Yeah. I spend no time on social media like that or comic book websites. So just take the books as they come, which is exactly what you were saying. Live in the moment of the thing. So that's what you do.
Thank you, Patrick and Sam, for writing in. And apologies for letting these Free Comic Book Day emails stack up a few weeks after Free Comic Book Day ended, but we still got to them in the same month that Free Comic Book Day happened, so that's a plus. Contact at iFanboy.com is how they wrote in, and you can write it for a Media Explode show. If you wish, you can put Media Explode in the subject line for that one. Now, here's where we plug things, but this is a different kind of plug, and it's a really important one. It's been a long time since we did this. I think it was 2008 was the last time we did a audience demographic survey, back when we had the video show. We're doing one again. Please, if you're listening to this and you have 5 free minutes, go to ifanboy.com/survey. It'll be linked in the show notes. It's ifanboy.com/survey. We're doing an audience demographic survey. It helps with our advertisers. They want to know who's listening. It's all anonymous. We don't see the results. Your name doesn't go on it. So please be as honest as you can, and just if you can just give us a few minutes and fill it out, it really will help. The more of you fill it out, the better we can provide information to advertisers who are looking to advertise and reach our audience. So thank you for filling it out and ahead of time. ifanboy.com/survey. Again, it'll be posted on the show notes if you need the link, but it's a pretty simple URL, ifanboy.com/survey. So thank you very much.
Weldon back.
We miss talking about our underwear. And now we have moving on to other shows. So 3 weeks ago, we had our Booksplode, Avengers, Kree Skrull War. 2 weeks ago, we had our special edition Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 2 show that Ryan and I and Paul did. This past week, Josh released his Talkspload interview with Tom King. And finally, the last of our special edition shows for this crazy month, in which we had 4 of them, is this coming week. We'll have our Media Splode, in which we did iFanboy at the movies. We reviewed several films that we saw in theaters, and we remembered Steve Albini. So that's coming up this week. You can look for that. In the meantime, there's all those other shows you can listen to.
You can find our library of over 1,300, but less than 1,400, but closer to 1,400 than 1,300 shows and counting at ifanboy.com or wherever podcasts are sold. You can follow us at iFanboy Comics on Instagram. You can find out what the pick of the week is before the show comes out. You can see a cut and paste error before it gets fixed. You can all sorts of things can happen.
These things happen.
The best of the week in panels will be there. We have our little show clips. Those are fun, I think. And yeah. I remember to do them about half the time while I'm editing the show. And other times I have to go back. And that's fine, too. You can follow us individually. CSK Patrick on Instagram, Jay Flanagan on Instagram. Well, you will see my 10-year-old son dropping in on a quarter pipe. A great accomplishment. A great accomplishment for America, for the Flanagan family, for everybody out there. I may talk about Cobra Commander on there. I'm not sure.
It was a cool video. I was excited to see it.
Also, Ryan Haupt is on Instagram.
And you're still on X, right?
No, I mean, like you guys, you tease me about it. I've not posted or done anything with my ex. Like the post I keep drafting in my head is I'm not using this account anymore. And so I just haven't even bothered to post it because it's such a non-factor in my life. What is a factor in my life is YouTube, and specifically youtube.com/ifanboy, where you'll find all the old video shows. And we post this show every week, not as a video. It's a video show in that it's on YouTube, but it's just the audio with an image. I think, should we just do like a still image of you guys in the shorts on the couch and then just play the whole show over that?
In a way, as soon as you see it, burns your way in there.
You're never not seeing it.
Right.
Kind of a ghost image on an early model HD TV.
It's Fonzie on skis over the shark, but then in between Fonzie and the shark is Connor in shorts. Please consider writing us a review or leaving a star rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. It really does make a difference, much like the survey mentioned before. And thanks, everybody, for listening.
All right, there you go. Thanks. This is a fun one. It was packed. We had a good time. The bell came back. So,
Celtics win.
We jumped the bell.
Thanks for listening. I'm Connor.
I'm Ryan.
I'll be whoever I fucking want to be, won't I?